I have to say I've just about completely worn out my books that Sherry wrote. I've read them so many times and learn something new every time I read them.
David, you're sharing your screen, right?
Yeah, didn't mean to share that one.
Okay.
I was just trying to get the Actually, hang on. I think I might be muted as well. Yep, sorry. Yeah, just getting the YouTube stream going as well.
Okay.
I forgot that was the screen I was sharing. Okay, that's going.
Okay, now I've unmuted so you can talk.
Alan White, how are you?
Doing just great. How are you?
We're good.
I'm so glad to see you. I thought about you and Don, and I had lost my contact with you, and then I finally found it online and had been meaning to give you a call.
Thank you. Had a rough Christmas.
Oh.
I had a heart attack and was in the hospital for 4 days.
Oh my goodness.
Mm.
So you're doing well now?
Yes.
Good. Because we need more Taylor books.
I have more. I'll send you. No volume ones left though.
Yeah, that's too bad.
We only have one volume one at our house.
Wow.
But we have 2s and 3s.
So Mike, how are we doing on numbers signing in?
We've got 31, 32.
I've actually got several that have just emailed me and just called me, so I'm sending out a couple more emails real quick.
Okay.
I got someone trying to log into the website, probably trying to find it there too. I don't know if you've got that one, but.
This is new territory for many people.
So far today, I've had one Zoom meeting, DAR Zoom meeting, and we also attended our grandson's confirmation down in Dunwoody, Georgia.
Oh,
Through
All through Zoom.
through something, I don't know what it was.
Eileen Phelps.
And now I'm with the Taylors, so
Who's that talking?
Here's Jane. Isn't it? No, I don't know who it is.
So the chat is going to be on so we can use the chat during the course of the conversation, during the course of the visits.
Yep, once we get started, we're going to mute everybody except for those who are presenting, and then we'll have different times where we'll invite commentary and we'll have then open chat again at the end.
Hey, David, do you know, will Zoom capture like all who have, like you said, you know how many are on? Will it capture who's on? At least the usernames, maybe not everybody's name, but does it do that?
I don't remember.
Okay, that's fine. I'll try to scroll through and see if I can make note of who's on with us.
Yeah. Okay, I think we have all of our guests.
Where?
It came on the bottom of the screen. It just dropped off.
Roger, you tell me when you want to start and we'll get this show on the road.
No, you tell me when you want me to start.
All right.
We're close to party time according to my watch.
Yep. Let's do it. I'm going to mute everybody now. So Roger, go ahead and unmute yourself, and then we can begin.
Hey, welcome to the Joseph Taylor and Sarah Best family reunion. We're excited to have you here today. We're expecting somewhere between 80 and 90, maybe even 100 people here on this reunion. Take off your mask and make yourselves at home. This is going to be a family reunion, and I love family reunions. I just wish we could be sitting in a park, having a picnic, giving handshakes and giving hugs, but we're not going to be able to do that this year. But we're fortunate we can do this by modern technology. And this virtual reunion is going to be very special. So thank you for being here. My name is Roger Taylor. And yep, that's me. My name is Roger Taylor Russell. My mother was a tailor, the granddaughter of Pleasant Green Taylor. Pleasant Green's a son of William Taylor, the oldest son of Joseph and Sarah Taylor. So I'm glad to be here, glad to host this thing today. We have a bit of technology. We need to make sure everything's working right. So before we really start, I'm going to turn this over to Mike Deal. Work it over, Mike.
All right. Thanks, Roger. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this first ever virtual Taylor family reunion via Zoom. As Roger pointed out, I'm Mike Deal. I'm partly responsible for the association's membership. So some of you have seen emails from me already, and appreciate having so many of you on. As we get started, we did want to go over a couple of Zoom housekeeping items that will allow you to better and best participate today. As Roger pointed out, we've started with everybody muted. And that's, of course, just to help avoid any unnecessary distractions for the presenters. But we do plan to unmute towards the end of the presentations to allow some time for questions or just a little bit of time for chat like we've had for the last few minutes. It's been very nice to be able to do that. Now, if you have any questions during the reunion, Zoom has a chat option, which you either tap and look for the chat in the top right-hand corner, or on your computer, you'll see that. Some cases you have to go to more, and then you'll see a drop down for chat. If you've got any questions or any comments you'd like to make, I see several of you have shared where you're from, and that's terrific. You can do that in the chat. By default, it goes to everybody, but you can also tap on that little down arrow there in the chat, and you can select an individual if you'd like to send something specifically to one person. But we do have some folks, I'll be one of those, and several others that are going to be watching the chat for comments. So we're going to try to keep up with those and make sure we address comments and concerns you may have. Some of you have your cameras on, and that's terrific. Some of you don't yet. In fact, some of you may not have that ability, or you may be somewhere where you just don't want to have it on. Because it's a reunion, we'd sure love to see you. So it's up to you, but if you have the ability and your internet's working well enough that you can have the video on, we'd love to see who's at the reunion. Your screen name is, by default to the computer that you're on or the tablet or whatever. If you'd like to change that, to update it, it certainly would be nice to be able to see who you are, if it's a nickname or a password that's on, or a username that's on there instead. If you'd like to do that, you just, again, you click on the list of participants, you find yourself, you tap on your own name, and you'll see an option for rename, and you can just go ahead and put that in. That just stays for this session. So once we're done and you go back to your business as usual, it'll go back to what you have as default. But if you choose to do that, we'd love to be able to see and know who you are, and maybe keep track for our records. You'll notice in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see that we are recording today's reunion. We're excited about that. Those who aren't able to be here, we're going to make sure that that's on our YouTube channel and on our website, so others can perhaps watch this later, or if you'd like, you can watch it again. And then lastly, any handouts or materials that we may talk about or or share today, we'll go ahead and make sure those are also available on our webpage and make that available to you. So we're excited to have you here. We look forward to this interesting reunion today. So thank you. Roger, back to you.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you doing that. And so grateful to have everybody here that's making this work out for us. The Taylor Family Association, we're thrilled to host this first of its kind virtual reunion for the Taylor Association members and friends. We're glad to have you with us. Now, the Taylor Family Association is a nonprofit organization that has existed as such since December of 2003. However, the earliest records show that there were reunions way back 1909 in Kentucky, 1909. So the Joseph Taylor family is a great American family. We've been part of the American story and dream for over 12 generations. Each of the major lines of Joseph Taylor Jr. have great stories to tell and have made significant contributions to this great country in all fields of interest, including agriculture, economics, the trades, the sciences, education, religion. They've served in all branches of the military. They raised large, loving, and productive families. We have much to be proud of, the Taylor family heritage. You'll hear a brief sketch of each one of them in just a moment. I like the story of Joseph Taylor, 1808. He and his wife, Sarah, living in North Carolina, decided it was time to move west and get some more ground. And so 1808, they packaged up their kids, their grandkids, their stuff, and they traveled from North Carolina into Kentucky, over 600 miles. I don't know about you, but I cannot even fathom what that journey was like. It could not have been easy. So as a Taylor Family Association, we're dedicated to keeping this heritage alive through documenting our ancestors, gathering our descendants, and collecting supporting research and media to share with you as you will see today. You'll meet members of the Taylor Family Association Board and some TFA members during the discussion this afternoon. Now, so our agenda today together, we'll try to introduce Joseph Taylor Jr. and each of his and Sarah's children. Then we'll discuss some projects and ideas from Taylor Family Association that we hope can be of value and use to you. We'll also introduce some collaborative resources and ideas from the field. We will then briefly discuss the association's research for both ancestors and descendants. And then finally, we'll open the floor for comments or ideas that you may want to share. So be ready. Now, we're going to have a brief introduction to the family of Joseph and Sarah and their 12 children. Most of these presentations were recorded by their direct descendants. We're grateful for their efforts to make this happen. We've also documented many of the dead in our database. We're missing a large percentage of the living who will be dead soon. So we need your help in that regard. In fact, as you listen to these 12 children, each one of them will ask you a specific question and request what they want you to do. So pay attention to what they say and be ready to do what they request. I think we're ready to start with Joseph.
Hello, I'm Frances Taylor.
Hello, I am Joseph Taylor Jr., and I was born about 1751 to Joseph Taylor and Nancy. The family moved to North Carolina around 1756. In 1775, the Revolutionary War broke out. I enlisted in the Continental Army in 1776 in the Martin County Militia, and I was wounded in the Battle of Guilford Courthouse in North Carolina. Returning home, I met and married Sarah Best, and we had 3 sons and 9 daughters, whom you will meet. The family moved to Warren County, Kentucky in 1808. We purchased 260 acres of land near Richardsville, Kentucky, and we lived to see 11 of our 12 children grow, marry, and move away. Only one daughter, Nancy, died at 12 years. The family worshiped at the old Green River Union Church. I was buried in the Taylor family graveyard in 1819, and Sarah died 16 years later and is buried beside me. We had 109 grandchildren, can you believe it? A monument to the family was erected at the cemetery by our descendants in 1928. Now I want you to meet my children. Francis?
Hello, I'm Frances Taylor, and I'm the firstborn child of Joseph and Sarah Best Taylor Jr., born 1783 in Martin County, North Carolina. When I was about 19, I married a widower, William Cherry Jr. The year was 1802. My husband's first wife, Lottie Hopkins, died young, leaving 7 children behind. And William and I raised these 7 children as well as our own 11 children, 6 boys and 5 girls. William and I moved to Warren County, Kentucky with my father, Joseph, and my family in 1808. We had 2 children by that time, Joseph Taylor, who was age 2, and Alan A. He was just born. William purchased land in Warren County in January of 1809, 150 acres for $600 on the waters of Lost Creek off the Green River. We spent our remaining years on the homestead near the Gasper River, where we raised our large family. William died in 1828 in Warren County, Kentucky. He was 62 years old. We had been married for 26 years. William is buried at Hall's Chapel Cemetery in Warren County. I lived on to age 69, and I died in the winter of 1852. I am also buried at Hall's Chapel beside my husband, William. Many of our children are buried there as well. There are 3,421 of our descendants in the Taylor database, and we are missing many others. Please help me find them and document their lives. I now take my leave and introduce my sister, Amy Taylor.
I am Amy Taylor, the second child born to Joseph and Sarah Best Taylor Jr. I was born in 1784 in Martin County, North Carolina. I married Ethelred Wallace in 1799 in Edgecombe County, North Carolina. He was an attorney in Martin County. He did some legal work for father. Ethelred and I moved to Stewart County, Tennessee in 1811. We had 4 children by that time, all born in Martin County. First, Martha Agnes. Second, Abigail. Third, Charlotte. We called her Lottie. Fourth, Josiah Wallace. We became members of the Slime Creek Baptist Church upon our arrival in Bumpus Mills, Tennessee. Dreddy and I were blessed with 4 children after arriving in Stewart County, making 3 sons and 5 daughters. On September 2nd, 1850, Dreddy and I agreed to live separately and apart from each other because some unhappy differences had arisen lately. Dreddy passed on in 1862 near Bumpus Mills, Tennessee. I followed 3 years later in 1865. We are likely buried in the graveyard on Hayes Fork Creek. No markers are now evident. There are 5,468 of our descendants documented in the Taylor database. I could use your help in finding the many more. I am proud to now introduce you to my sister, Delilah Taylor, who was born after me.
Greetings, my name is Delilah Taylor, and I'm the third-born child of Joseph Taylor Jr. and Sarah Best. I was born in 1786 in Martin County. It's been said that Amy and I looked alike. Amy and I married Wallace brothers. I married John Wallace and Amy married Ethelred Wallace. Unfortunately, the early marriage bonds of Marin County were burned, and the Wallace-Taylor marriage records have been lost. We started a family right away and had 2 little ones. When we moved to Warren County, Kentucky, we had 3 more, all born near Richardsville. We lived in Warren County for about 10 years. Then, with our family of 4 youngsters, moved down to Stewart County, Tennessee. We had lost our firstborn, Amy. There were many Wallaces already in Stewart County. My sister Amy and Etheldred Wallace had already moved there. The last of our 10 children were born in Stewart County, making 6 boys and 4 girls. This included Susanna and Amy, to replace the little Amy we had lost in Warren County. Around the year 1830, John and I and our family and 2 of John's brothers moved back to Tennessee into the county of Trigg. We remained there for at least the next 20 years. In March of 1853, there was a smallpox epidemic in Trigg County. Our son, Eaton Wallace, and his wife, Milbury, and some of their children contracted the disease. Sons, Rufus and Marcus, survived the epidemic. This contagious disease may have taken our lives also, and we were probably buried in the family graveyard. You have documented 4,813 of our descendants, but we are still missing many. Please help find them. I am proud now to introduce you to my brother, William Taylor, who was born after me.
Yes, I am William Taylor, the first son born to Joseph Taylor and Sarah Best. I was born the 21st of March, 1787, in Martin County, North Carolina. Our family lived there until I was 21 years, when we moved to Warren County, Kentucky. About the time we settled in Kentucky, a family by the name of Patrick settled near us. John and Sarah Patrick had a lovely daughter about my age named Elizabeth. She was tall, 5 foot 8 inches, with sandy hair and blue eyes. Everyone called her Betsy. I courted her, and in the spring of 1811, we married at Father Taylor's cabin. Elizabeth and I raised 11 children on our farm near Richardsville, when in 1830 we left Kentucky for eastern Missouri, Monroe County. This part of Missouri at the time was wilderness, inhabited by natives, many wild animals, and beautiful prairie land with good timber. Elizabeth's brother and her sister's husband got land grants in Monroe County, Missouri in the fall of 1831. We obtained land adjacent to them that November. We had a fine home and a farm with plenty of good land. We had some religion in our family. Elizabeth and I taught our children to love Jesus and the Bible stories. In the spring of 1832, it seems, some preachers from a new church stopped by our settlement. I listened to them tell of a new prophet, Joseph Smith, and a book of new scripture about Christ visiting the Americas. I believed and was baptized. I understood myself to be the first to join this church in the state of Missouri. Later, Elizabeth and I moved to Fishing River in Ray County, western Missouri, to be near other church members. We bought 2 good farms and remained till the fall of 1834, when we were driven out. In 35, we removed to Long Creek, 8 miles south of Far West in Clay County. By 1837, 3 more children had blessed our home, making a total of 14, 7 strong sons and 7 lovely daughters. We gathered into Far West late in the fall of 1838 for safety. So many of the saints had gathered there to escape mob violence that we were compelled to camp in the street. 10 inches of snow fell during the night. We saw the prophet Joseph Smith surrender himself to the mob and heard the dreadful noise and confusion made by the mob the following night. While in this condition, some of the mob tried to persuade our daughters to go with them and said unless they did, they would be destroyed. Elizabeth grabbed her poking stick and drove them away from the campfire. After the surrender of the city, we returned to our home and found that a huge mob army had camped for 2 nights at our homestead. The mob slaughtered our livestock, consumed our stores, and destroyed the remaining crops. On the 8th of February, 1839, we again left our home, expelled from Missouri by the order of Governor Boggs. We journeyed in the weather some 200 miles to east to Illinois. After being in Illinois a short time, I took sick and died on the 9th of September, 1839. I was buried on the main road between Lima and Warsaw in Hancock County in a small burying ground on Colonel Williams' land. I understand that Elizabeth went on to Nauvoo, where she and the boys built a house and held the family together. 2 of our daughters died while in Nauvoo before our family was forced again to leave with thousands of others to find safety in the West. Elizabeth and the boys left by wagon and ox team in 1846. After arriving in Utah in October 1849, she eventually settled in Harrisville, north of Ogden, near our son Pleasant Green Taylor. Elizabeth joined me on the 25th of October in 1880, just before her 87th birthday. The family buried her body in the Ogden City Cemetery. I note you have 79,000 and some odd descendants of our family, but I'm sure that there are many more. Please help find them. Now, I wish to have you meet my brother, Alan Taylor.
Thank you, William. That's a hard act to follow. Yes, I am Alan Taylor, the 5th child and 2nd son of Joseph and Sarah Best Taylor Jr. I was born in 1789 in Martin County, North Carolina. I too grew up on the Taylor property. I was about 19 years of age when our family moved to Warren County, Kentucky. I married Lavina Cherry 3 years after arriving in Kentucky in the month of February 1811. Lavina was the daughter of William Cherry Jr. and his first wife, Lottie Hopkins. Robert Dottie from across the Gasper River married us, as he had done for my brother William and his bride Elizabeth. We farmed 92 acres of my father's land. After my brother William left the area, about 1831, he sold his share of land to our youngest brother, Joseph Best. Lavina and I and our family attended Green River Union Church, where I became a trustee on the first board of trustees. We raised a large and noble family of 8 sons and 4 daughters, all born in Warren County, Kentucky. My dear wife, Lavina, died in 1853. Edna, our youngest daughter, cared for me until I passed on the 12th of September, 1878, and I was buried by my wife, Lavina Cherry Taylor, in the Taylor graveyard. There are 574 of our descendant documents in the Taylor database, so we are missing some. Please help us find them. My sister, Mary Ann Taylor, will follow me with a brief of her family.
Hello, my name is Mary Ann Taylor, and I am the 6th child of Joseph Taylor Jr. and Sarah Best. I was about 17 when we left Edgecombe County, North Carolina for Warren County, Kentucky. A few years after we arrived in Warren County, I married Samuel Cherry in 1813. Samuel was the son of William Bailey Cherry Jr. and Lottie Hopkins. Samuel's father, William Cherry Jr., married my older sister, Frances Taylor, as you have learned from Frances. Samuel and I had 1 child together named Alfred Cherry. He was born on Christmas Day, 1813. Samuel died at a young age from an accident, leaving me with a young son to raise. In August of 1826, I married Elijah Upton, a widower, whose first wife, Elizabeth Ford, died in childbirth, leaving 6 children ranging in age from 12 to newborn son. We started our married life with 7 children. My son, Alfred Cherry, was 12, the same age as Elijah's oldest daughter, Rachel Upton. Elijah was a farmer. He had 350 acres between the Green and Barren River in Warren County, Kentucky. Elijah was an original member of the Board of Trustees of the Green River Union Church. The Masonic Lodge at Richardsville is named for him. We had no children together. We were married 26 years and lived near my father's land. I died in August of 1852 in Warren County, Kentucky at 61. Very sudden. I was buried at the Taylor graveyard next to Elizabeth Ford Upton, my husband's first wife. When Elijah died 10 years later, August 1862, he was buried beside myself and Elizabeth Ford Upton at the Taylor graveyard. There are 726 of our descendants in the Taylor database. Please keep searching for the rest. And now I'd like you to meet my sister, Seraphy Temperance Taylor.
Greetings from Smarts Prairie in the Illinois Territory. I was born in 1793 to Joseph Taylor and Sarah Best in Edgecombe County, North Carolina, being their 7th child and 5th daughter. I was named Seraphy Temperance Taylor and affectionately called Tempy. You can call me Tempy. I was only 15 when I came to Warren County, Kentucky with my parents and sisters and brothers and settled near Richardsville. The year was 1808. 5 years later, I met a handsome young soldier named Wiley Smart. Father signed the consent for our marriage, and we were married on a beautiful spring day, the 4th of April, 1813 in Warren County. The following year, our first child was born on a cold January day, a little girl, and we called her Amy. The year of 1815 was a big year for us. We had our second child, Sarah, born to us, and also migrated to the Illinois Territory. We set out with Wiley's parents and all of Wiley's brothers and sisters, except for his oldest brother, Altsy Smart, and a sister, Catherine, who remained in Warren County. We located in Jarvis and Pinot Township in Madison County. So many of the Smart family had settled in this section of Madison County that it became known as Smart's Prairie. The years to follow were good to us, bringing 4 strong sons and 5 loving daughters born at Smart's Prairie. I died in 1843, a few years after the birth of our last child, William. I'm probably buried in the Smart family graveyard. No monument has been located to mark my grave. My dear husband Wiley was in need of a wife. Therefore, on the 23rd of July, 1844, Wiley married Mrs. Elizabeth Hignite. Elizabeth had 9 children from her first marriage to Mr. John Hignite. Elizabeth's hands were kept very busy caring for this combined family of Hignite and Smart, which now totaled 18. Of course, they were not all under the same roof at this time. But it wasn't over yet. Wiley and Elizabeth Smart were blessed with their own son, Alexander Wiley Smart. My beloved Wiley died in the fall on the 25th of October in 1855, and it is believed buried beside me at the Smart family graveyard in Madison County, Illinois. No monument has been found to mark his grave. And now I want to introduce you to my little sister, Nancy. But before I take my leave, I want to present you with this likeness of our son, Alan Taylor Smart. He moved up to Shelby County, Illinois, and raised his family.
Thank you, Tempy. I am the 8th child of Joseph Taylor Jr. and Sarah Best. I was born in about 1797 in Edgecombe County, North Carolina. When I was 11 years old, I made the long trip with my parents and family from North Carolina to Warren County, Kentucky. I died on the 2nd of February, 1812, at the age of 15. I did not get to know many of this wonderful Taylor extended family. No gravestone exists at the Taylor graveyard for me, but I must have been buried there. Now, I want you to meet my next younger sister, Sarah Best Taylor.
I am Sarah Best Taylor, and the 9th child of Joseph Taylor and Sarah Best Jr., born the 5th of January, 1800, Edgecombe County, North Carolina. I was better known as Sally Taylor and sometimes called Sarah Bess. I was about 8 years old when our family moved to Kentucky. Growing up near Richardsville on the Taylor land, I met and married Renee Chastain Hudnall, the 7th of June, 1821. Renee's father was James Hudnall, who started the Green River Union Church. We became parents of 12 children, 6 sons, and 6 daughters. Sadly, I was not here to see them all grow up. I died while giving birth to my last baby, Sydney Ann. I was 37, and the year was 1838. I was laid to rest at the Hudnall Cemetery. Renee needed help caring for the children. Family lovingly took them into their homes to nurture. About 7 years after my death, my husband, Renee Chastain Hudnall, married Leah Carroll and continued to raise our children, as well as 4 more born to him and Leah. Leah Carroll Hudnall died 1869, and Renee died 2 years later. There are 2,524 descendants of Renee and I in the Taylor database. I wish there were more. Can you help? Now I want you to meet my brother Joseph Best Taylor. He's the best. He and his wife, Polly-Ann Hudnall, raised my daughter Sydney Hudnall after my death. Polly-Ann was Renee's sister.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, let me introduce myself and tell you a little bit about my family. I'm the 10th child born to Joseph Taylor Jr. and Sarah Best. I was born 10 September 1801 in Edgecombe County, North Carolina, and was named Joseph Best Taylor. I was about 6 years old when we left for Warren County, Kentucky. The James Hudnall Jr. and Rhoda Chastain family were close friends and neighbors to our Taylor family. They had a lovely daughter named Polly-Ann. Oh, my Polly-Ann. Polly-Ann became my wife on 31 January of 1822 in Warren County, Kentucky. Polly's brother, Renee Chastain Hudnall, married my sister, Sarah Best Taylor. We attended the Green River Union Church. Polly was a registered midwife and helped bring many babies into the world. She brought little Sydney Hudnall home after she was born to care for her after her mother died. We were blessed with 12 children of our own, all born in Warren County, Kentucky, 7 boys and 5 girls. 3 of our sons served in the Civil War, James, Joseph, and Thomas. Thomas Taylor died during the war. My Polly-Ann Hudnall Taylor died near Richardsville in 1845. She was only 40 years old. She was buried at the Hudnall Cemetery in Warren County. Our 10 children at the time ranged in ages from 3 to 21 years. 5 years later, on 4 December of 1849, I married Sarah Elizabeth Roan Birchfield in Butler County. Sarah was the widow of Meshach Birchfield. Sarah came into the marriage with 7 children. 2 were married and on their own, giving us 16 children under the roof. Sarah and I also had 2 sons, Newton Road Taylor and little William A. Taylor, who only lived 1 day. I passed on 11 August of 1864 at almost 63 years of age. I'm buried at the Hudnall Cemetery in Warren County, Kentucky. My wife, Sarah Elizabeth Roan Birchfield Taylor, died 3 years later and is buried at the John Roan Cemetery. There are 2,442 of our descendants identified in the Taylor database. Please continue the search for more. Now I want you to meet my sister, Elizabeth Ann Taylor.
Thank you, Joseph. Yes, I'm Elizabeth Ann Taylor, the 11th child of Joseph Taylor Jr. and Sarah Best. I was born 10 September 1803 in Edgecombe County, North Carolina, and called Betsy. I was 5 years old when the family moved to Warren County, Kentucky. I grew up on the old Taylor homestead in Warren County, Kentucky, and when I was 26, I married Samuel Venable Goode. Samuel was 38. Samuel and I raised 9 children, 6 girls and 3 boys. We lost 3 little daughters when they were very young. We also cared for and raised Isham Hudnall. He was the son of Sarah Best Taylor Hudnall, my sister who had died. My husband was a man of many talents. He was a teacher and a farmer with his father. Samuel served as a magistrate in Warren County and was the census taker in 1850 in our section. He also worked as a boatman, taking produce to the market down the Green, Ohio, and Mississippi rivers to New Orleans. Samuel Venable Goode Jr., our last child, was also a Union soldier in the Civil War. I passed on in 1861 at the age of 57. Samuel followed me 1 year later in 1862. We are both buried at the Mount Zion Church Cemetery near Brown's Lock, northwest of Richardsville, Kentucky. I see that 622 of our descendants are documented in the Taylor database. Please continue the search. Now I want to introduce you to my sister Charlotte.
I am the 12th and youngest child of Joseph Taylor Jr. and Sarah Best, born on the 8th of October, 1805 at Edgecombe County, North Carolina. I was about 2.5 years of age when the family left North Carolina. I was affectionately called Lottie. Father died when I was only 13. He left me 1 feather bed and furniture, 1 2-year-old heifer, and 1 small pot. Growing up in the Taylor home near Richardsville, Kentucky, I became well acquainted with William Lawson White, son of William White and Margaret Hudnall. Mother gave consent for our marriage. My brother Alan Taylor was the bondsman. William Lawson White and I were married in 1823 in Warren County, Kentucky. He was 22 and I was 18. We farmed 265 acres on the Barren River near the mouth of Little Muddy Creek in Warren County. My William was a very ingenious man. He dammed a spring and used a crude turbine to force the water through a pipe up into our yard to our home. This was in 1850. William and I were blessed with 12 children, 7 sons and 5 daughters, all born in Warren County. The Civil War affected our family with 2 of our sons serving in the Union Army. A couple of years after the war ended, I passed on June of 1867 at age 61. I was buried at the Maxey graveyard. After my death, my dear husband William married Martha J. Terrence Jones, a widow. They had 2 children together, named Calpurnia and Mary. William died in 1876 and was buried near me at the Maxey graveyard. There are 2,500 of my descendants in the Taylor database. Please continue the research. This concludes the history of my brothers and sisters and their families.
You know, I think that was amazing. I've listened to that several times, and it continues to amaze me, and I'm impressed with this family. we have down 111 grandchildren. The up on the board it says 109, but a lot of grandchildren, a lot of children to keep track of. These stories are amazing. We barely heard but a second or two of each of these stories, but the rest of the lengthy histories are available. If you'd like to learn more about these children, they're available in our website. Please check them out. You'll love reading them. Now, you heard everybody say, please help us find descendants. There's a lot of work to be done, a lot of things we can do. So let's continue working on that and gathering that information so we keep track of things. Now we're going to discuss some initiatives and some activities of the Taylor Family Association. We hope these will be of interest and value to you. First, we're going to talk about the new website. We want to thank Carl Taylor. Carl did years of work on the website, years of service as a webmaster, and I'd like to introduce our new webmaster, David R. Taylor. With him is our devoted Taylor Times editor, Eileen Phelps. Eileen is an amazing lady. So let's give them some time to talk about these items. Thanks, guys.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, Roger. I'm so happy to be here, and just want to talk briefly about the website, the Taylor Association website. And the main purpose of the website is to be a resource to learn about and celebrate the Joseph Taylor family heritage. So we have information for everyone to learn a little bit about their lives, and other resources as well for our paying members of the Taylor Association. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. So let me actually switch over and show you the website. Let's bring this over here. There we go. So we just recently moved the website to this new platform. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Why did that go away? All right. Sorry for the technical difficulties. There we go. And we still we haven't moved everything over. We have some ideas, but we'd love to hear from you as well. So if you have some things you'd like to see on the website, we'd love to have you put those in the chat, or a little bit later on, we'd love to hear from you as well. For now, so I'm going to give you a little tour of the site in a little bit. But first, I want Eileen to talk about a project that she's working on to get our Taylor story up on the website. Eileen?
Okay. First of all, to see how to get into it, click on Taylor Heritage, which is one of those items at the top. Then it tells you a sub-menu there, but if you click on it, you can see a little more easily. There we go. Okay, I've been editing the Taylor newsletter since 1993, and you can see these issues online if you're a member. I've published a lot of articles and many reports from researchers and started to upload them on our website in the Taylor Online Library Archive, Taylor Online Library Archive. But I've decided that I prefer the way the national newspapers handle their information. They have a main story with links to related information, so that you can do a quick read or you can study in depth. So my information that I've received is going into this section, and most of it will go into 3 subsections. Our family story starts with Joseph Taylor Sr. and Nancy, so click on that. Okay, they're the earliest ancestors that our family remembered after we first started to research more than 170 years ago. And our organization is named after them because of that. This story works forward from this point of generation, from Joseph in Norfolk, Virginia to North Carolina, and will proceed to Kentucky, Tennessee, Missouri, and other places in the family as the family spreads out. This family story will grow beyond my articles with your help and reach clear to 1900. There are links that you can click on here. I'm not sure if they're live today, but they show further pictures and so forth. So if you want more details about different things like visiting Norfolk County today and finding the location in the county where Joseph Taylor Sr. lived. But if you're interested in working back, that's another story. Go back to the heritage and click on the theory link. The story is not yet uploaded there. It's part of it's already on the website, but it's not up to date. I'm going to work on that very soon. We've had a lot of theories, starting from the days long before microfilm and genealogical libraries and the internet. We've changed our minds about some of them. You'll see which theories we're certain are not correct. Taylor's a popular surname, so it's easy to climb the wrong family tree. We have some very sound circumstantial evidence for our current favorite theory. And this is where we will be putting this information, will be under theories, along with the evidence that we are still searching for. Who's been working on all this? To find out, click on researchers link. So far, there's only a very small part of the list of names, about half. We will put research reports in here. We want this list to grow very large. So include those, it'll include those of you who contribute to the other stories. That's it.
Great. Thanks so much, Eileen. That sounds so awesome. Excited to read the narrative as it expands and as we watch their family spread out and grow. I want to point out just a few other things today. Our time is short here, but I want to spend just a few minutes to show a few other things on the website. First off, I just want to put a plea out there. We need your help. We'd love to have an assistant webmaster, as well as content contributors to the website, whether that's creating articles or helping with research like Eileen talked about. And you don't have to be a computer programmer to use this. The new website is built on WordPress. Many of you have maybe used it on a blog or another site of your own. And so please let us know if you are willing to help us out.
You can learn it. I'm 85 years old and I'm learning it. So can you.
She is doing awesome. So yeah, thank you. And if we only need, even if you just got 2 or 3 hours a month, that would be very helpful to us. So I want to point out on the website here, we've got the menu up at the top. There are many other ways to volunteer. We'll hear about some of these projects and volunteer activities in just a moment, but you can learn about some of those here. Also over here on the right, you'll notice that you can log in. Well, in order to log in, you have to register with the site first. So you can register just with clicking the link right there. And there's really 2 levels of, you can register, which allows you to make comments to some of the articles and things like that, to add comments on the site. But you can also get a membership. And so membership in the association has a modest annual fee of $15. It includes a subscription to the Taylor Times newsletter, which comes out 4 times a year. It also includes access to the archives going back to 1993 of our Taylor Times, and we'll also have additional, some of our research information will be for members only. And this helps us to pay for things to run the organization, the association. So the website hosting fees, printing and mailing costs, legal fees, and occasionally some professional research that we'd like to have done. So it's pretty easy to just fill out your information here to register for an account. And then it will, when you click register, it will take you to PayPal to pay your $15 annual membership fee. And we really appreciate that. And we think that there's a lot of value to you as well as being a member. If you have other questions about that, you can reach out to Mike Deal, who we've heard from earlier today, who helps with our membership information. One other thing I want to point out is we've got this menu on the right-hand side that kind of stays there on most of the pages. There's some great social media resources that we use to connect with one another. We have a Facebook page, and we also have a YouTube channel, and those can be reached right here just by clicking on these links. And we'll also have links to those in the presentation that will be on the website later on. I could probably talk about the website for much longer, but I'm going to move on to some other exciting things that we want to hear about. Again, use the chat window to mention anything else that you'd like to see. Maybe you remember seeing things on the old site that you can't find now. Let us know that you want it and we'll put it back up there. So let's see. All right, we are sharing still, and there we go.
Hey, thank you, guys. You are amazing. And I don't want to overuse that term, but you are amazing. Thank you for all you do. I'd like to introduce Ron Taylor. He's our database manager. He is also amazing. And he's going to join us with Nancy Gregory, our secretary, and they're going to talk to us about some of the things that they're doing. Take it away, Ron and Nancy.
Okay. The first thing I wanted to talk about was the software that we use on our personal computers. It's called Legacy Family Tree. It was made by Millennia Corporation and now is owned by MyHeritage. So they've got a worldwide presence with this software now. The reason we use the Legacy Family Tree software is there's multiple points for why we're using it. I don't know if we ever got a slide up for that. David, maybe you can chime in and tell us if there's a slide.
No, I didn't manage to get that up. I apologize.
Do you want me to share screen on that?
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay, let me see if I can. Nope, it's preventing me from. There it is. I'm going to share my screen, and actually there's a piece of it that was already up there. But here's the 9 points I wanted to talk about for Legacy Family Tree. I used to use lots of other software on my computer, and when the PAF system was discontinued by the church in 1998, I decided I needed to get something else. And so I was looking for a good program. Legacy Family Tree requires a database underneath it, just like all of the other programs. And the database underneath Legacy Family Tree is the Microsoft Access relational database. So Legacy simply calls routines to bring data in and out of the database. The database is maintained by Microsoft, and therefore it's a world-class database that's really up to date, and they maintain it. So it doesn't require the personal attention that the older databases used to take. Point number 2, we describe how relational lists work in a relational database that makes it such a simple way. Locations, surnames, sources, events, and lots of other things are stored in the database in only one place. That way, let's say that you have a city like Richardsville, Kentucky, and you decide that it's spelled wrong. You can go into the list of locations and fix Richardsville, and it's corrected for everybody that's connected to that one location. Same thing with any other location. So you might have like so many records, so many databases that I've looked at have Salt Lake City about 35 or 45 times, different spellings and different ways to put them in. Once you correct Salt Lake City so that it's one consistent spelling, it's fixed for the entire database. Same thing with surnames and sources and events. So having those in simplified lists, what they call a master list, makes it really simple to extract or list. You can say show list of all the people or all the records that utilize that one location. You can also search for things much easier because they're standardized like that. Point number 3, this one actually was the main point that caught my attention when I was looking for a better program. In most programs, when you merge two people together, the programs usually do a pretty good job of merging them together. But in Legacy, when you merge two people together, then the program goes out and says, well, didn't these two people have parents and siblings and spouses and children and so forth? Shouldn't they all be merged also? So the program goes up and down the entire pedigree and merges everything else that's connected to those first two people that were merged. That is a tremendous power. Okay, point number 4. It's really simple to export data from Legacy into a spreadsheet or into various kinds of reports and charts. I should have put the word charts on there, but it's really easy to do that. And the program is designed for that. Point 5, collaboration is really simple with Legacy because they incorporate what they call an IntelliShare value for each person in the database. So if I copy the database and send a copy to Nancy and she works on it, she can send that copy back to me after she's worked on it for a while, and I can merge it together with the main database based on the IntelliShare value. And every single person that has the same value in their record will automatically merge together as long as nothing else has changed. So if Nancy changed a few things, those things will pop up on screen and I'll be able to review them and determine whether they are good or bad changes and maybe have a conversation with her about that. But anyway, collaboration was a key element to Legacy Family Tree. Makes it really easy to share data. When we send out a slice, and I think we're going to explain what slices are here in a minute. When we send out a slice of the database to one of our members, we do it by this collaboration tool that's built into Legacy. And then when they update their records and send them back to us, we merge them back into the main database with the IntelliShare value that's already there. Point number 6, Legacy Family Tree is completely integrated with Family Search. So you can download data from Family Search or you can upload data to Family Search from Legacy. Makes it really easy. Point number 7, there's lots of charts and reports that are already built into Legacy. Plus there's quite a few third-party programs that tie into Legacy that make additional charts and reports. Point number 8, the data can be imported from other genealogy programs and from any program that can make a GEDCOM. So if you've got another program, Roots Magic, Ancestral Quest, or whatever, we can pull the data in from those programs into our master database, and we can share the data we have with you on your slice of the family. Point 9, probably the most important thing that differs between having your data in Family Search and having it in Legacy is that you can maintain information for living people in your Legacy database. You can't do that on an online system like Family Search because of privacy rules. So those are some of the things for Legacy Family Tree. I'll jump back to the presentation and let Nancy talk.
Thank you, Ron. Ron has often referred to me as a master slicer. Legacy is really quite easy to use, and we just want to let you know that both Ron and I are here to help you with anything that you need in order to get your slices committed. We need your slices, and we thank you for all the help you're giving us in advancing this database. If Legacy is not your preferred database, that's okay too. Ron can work with any other family tree software that you prefer to use. Gordon will talk to us about the slicers soon. I see that the next thing on the list is the social media. Currently, the Taylor Family Association manages a group on Facebook called the Joseph Taylor Senior Family Association. That is listed on the on that website if you want to look that up there. And of course, the link is here on the slide. If you just type in Joseph Taylor Senior in your Facebook search box, you'll be able to find it. There are two other research groups that we are associated with on Facebook. The Virginia Genealogy Research is really very helpful if you want to go back to Virginia and find some of the information that we're looking at now. And the other one is My Richardsville Anna Family. If you just type in My Richardsville in the Facebook search box, you'll be able to find that one. And it's more related to the area near Richardsville that was where all our family came from, Joseph Taylor Jr. Next.
Okay, hey, thank you guys. You know, we are really fortunate to have people like Ron and Nancy, and they're there to help. If you struggle like I struggle, and I struggle a lot, you reach out to these guys and they can help you. They understand this technology and they understand the database. Don't hesitate to reach out to them and ask for some help, and let's get the job done. We're going to now move on into some detail on some of the projects that we have and some of the activities we have in gathering families and slicers. We're going to turn it over to Gordon, and I think Gordon's got a guest with us from Alan White. There he is. Gordon, you take it over and introduce everybody. You got to unmute though.
So let's talk for I'd want to share just a minute about why we have the slicer model and why we're using it together and collaborate. And I'll use myself as an example. A typical twig or slice is about three or four generations of people back to like my grandfather. In his case, we have about 350 people that we are having that file. The practical value of the slice is communication. We all have communication lists that we use for things like birthdays, weddings, anniversaries, even Christmas cards. But if you put that information in Legacy Family Tree, it'll help you manage those tasks. But the big value is in terms of the family history itself. And you can keep it current and recycle, as Ron was talking about, for your own benefit. And I'd like to just share maybe 4 benefits that I see in using this kind of management tool. First of all, is that this concept provides the ability to have an off-site backup of your working family history file. It's always highly recommended that you keep your personal file backed up off-site. That's number 1. Number 2, this particular software will document the events of your life. Now, that's beyond the vital stuff, birth, marriage, children, death, things, but it includes video there, but includes occupations, residence, achievements, and other spiritual and emotional events that can occur in your life. They have about 250 suggestions, but you can add your own to it. I think of these events like what Abraham and the other prophets shared with us about their lives. That's number 2. Number 3, it includes timelines. You can create your own timeline of you and your family. Now, it's valuable for you to catch the points in your life that really count. but it's great when you're talking to your kids and your grandkids about your life together to give that storyline of the experiences in your life. Some have raised concerns about safety. This age of personal hackers and so forth. Well, the Taylor Family Database is private, as yours is. You define who sees the information, that cousins, just like the contact lists that you have. And the Taylor Family Database is private as well, and is only used for genealogical research purposes by request. So great value to us. And of course, the significant thing that Ron was talking about, it documents you before you're dead. So somebody else doesn't have to go find you. So a few benefits. All right, Ron, should we spend some time talking about Find a Grave? You want to share a little bit about the concept, and then we're going to have Alan here, who's on the screen with us, talk about about his experience with this feature that's linked to Legacy Family Tree.
Now, if I can get my screen to move.
There you go.
Yeah, Find a Grave is another database that's online, and Legacy is completely integrated with Find a Grave. One of the things that's really nice, point number 2, we can verify and expand information that we have in our Legacy database, including pictures of tombstones. So sometimes, in general, whenever somebody puts up a tombstone, it has to be paid for. Sorry. Whenever somebody,
And it's annoying. I don't know.
Please shut off your mic.
yeah. Whenever somebody puts up a tombstone, they have to pay for it. And usually the family that pays for the tombstone makes certain that the information on that tombstone is correct. That's not always the case. There are a few tombstones that are wrong, but in general, most tombstones have correct information on them, including the birth and death dates. So those become really valuable to verify some of the information in our database. In the cases where they're wrong, we can also document that so that we don't have to continue to look at the same tombstone and interpret the data the wrong way. Third point, many individuals are usually linked to a tombstone, like children or parents or spouses. Sometimes we do not have that information in our database. So Find a Grave provides us a way to find additional information. And we also discover a lot of people that have died that we didn't know they had died, but they're linked to the Find a Grave. So the fourth point, that we got a high percentage of deceased individuals that can be found in Find a Grave. I think we right now have of Taylor, the ones that have appeared in the Taylor Times, there's 89% of those that are in Find a Grave. And the ones that are in the database, we currently have about 14,000 Find a Grave memorials that are cataloged in the database. Let me jump out of this screen and we'll let Alan tell us how he's using Find a Grave. Make sure you unmute.
Thank you, Ron. If I could, for just a few minutes, share my experience with Find a Grave with you. I was introduced to Find a Grave a few years ago from a friend of mine who was actually taking photographs in cemeteries and submitting them to Find a Grave. And I think we have an example here of what you'll see when you go to Find a Grave. This is Charlotte. This is Joseph and Sarah's daughter. And if you'll notice some of the information that you will find there, the first thing that will jump out at you is a picture of her tombstone, and you can click on the stone to get a larger picture of the stone in most cases. You have the date of birth, you have the date of death, you have the location of the burial. And whenever you get to the location of the burial, you can click on that graveyard link, and that will take you to that graveyard, which will also have a listing of everyone who is buried in that graveyard, which might help identify where some family members are. You can also see with the cemetery where it says burial, in most of these, you will find that you can click over to the right where it says add to map. Many of these already are mapped, and all you have to do is click on that. That will give you a map of how to locate that cemetery. And then you have a memorial ID underneath that, which is basically the source of information for that particular person. You can register as a contributor to Find a Grave to suggest edits. You can share it, you can save to different databases. Then whenever you get further down there, you'll find the family members. You'll see you have the parents of Charlotte are Joseph Taylor and Sarah Elizabeth Best Taylor. To the right, you will find her spouse, which in this case is William Lawson White. One of the interesting things that I have started doing is I have found that if you're using Find a Grave to research backward into genealogy, in many cases, you very quickly run into a dead end. So I have taken an interest in the past several years of trying to find out who are the living members of the family. Of course, on this site, there are no living people listed. However, and say, for instance, if you click one of the children, that will take you to their Find a Grave site. You can click on their children, and so on. In the more recent times, what you will find is that there are sometimes full obituaries that are written in there on their Find a Grave site. And in the obituaries, you can find possibly living relatives that is descended from that person, which is to me a very interesting thing to do. I'm very interested in that link. Just as an example, I find myself playing around on Find a Grave if I have nothing else to do, which is not very often, but sometimes I make the time to do it anyway. Oh, I forgot to mention, on some of the Find a Grave sites, you'll find photographs that are posted. Family pictures are posted. Individual pictures are posted, which of course can be edited. Just a story that was kind of interesting to me of something that I came across just by accident by using Find a Grave is I was looking at William Lawson White, Charlotte's husband's father was William. And so I started looking at his children and then go to each child down as far as you can go. And from William's brother Jacob, I got down to a great-granddaughter that was listed there by the name of Edith White Bowling Wilson, which jumped out at me that I recognized that name. I didn't recognize the White part, but I recognized the rest of it. And she is the wife of Woodrow Wilson, who was descended from William White's brother. I had no idea. I was all excited about it. I told my son about it, and it's like, okay, so, he didn't quite see the interest that I had in that. But then again, that's kind of the way it goes with genealogy. All of us that are here today are interested in these types of things. And I used to spend many, many hours roaming through cemeteries, looking for people. And this is just another way to do that. So I have found that Find a Grave over the years has improved. They have updated. It's an excellent resource, and I would highly encourage everyone to get on there and see how this particular resource works.
Thank you, Alan. Rod introduced this to me when and told me about it, and I got on, found 274 of my slice were not part of the didn't have these memorials that he was talking about, the little memorial code. Quickly found all but 100. Now, the 100 I found were those that hadn't been hadn't had a picture taken yet. So I've got to go for volunteers there. And I guess I've got to have some responsibility to share back with Find Your Grave some of the information that I see they're missing that they could be added for collaboration. But thank you, Alan. It was wonderful. Love. Thank you. Okay, let's go on, David. Okay, I guess I'm next up to talk a little bit about our goal in living descendants, right? And to do that, we have about 3 points that I'm going to cover, and I guess Ron's going to cover the next points that there. So the first one is our goal is to establish complete family groups for each person. That includes a family group sheet would include father, mother, their parents, and children. Now you have to ask, why did we ask for their parents for this large, multi-generational family? The reason that we're doing that is because of the locations where we have so much intermarriage across America, like Stewart County, Warren County, far west and Loa in Utah, Preston, Idaho, Idaho Falls, Illinois, Washington, Arizona. Anyway, we have many individuals, as we found early on as chatting this begin this call, people who are linked more than one time. I think Ron will shake his head when I say this. I think the largest number we've found is 6. A person that has 6 links to the Taylor family, right, Ron? I think that's correct. So that we would appreciate gathering the in-laws of the family so that we can keep doing the research and extending it out. The next thing is about that we need to talk about is the lost lines and branches. You heard from the families that they were missing some limbs and twigs. We need to help them gather that. We can use this slicer model to do that, but we need to be able to gather to do that. And Nancy also suggested, as I recall, about DNA, right?
Right. I've been working with the DNA for about the last 5 years. There are 3 types of DNA: Y DNA, which goes from son to father to father to father and on back, and unchanged for umpteen years. Only males can effectively test for Y DNA. Ron Taylor is managing the Taylor family Y DNA tests. If you've tested for Y DNA, please contact Ron to add your information to his data. Y DNA may be the breaking research that will get us back across the pond to England. The second one is mtDNA, which goes from daughter to mother to mother to mother and up, and is unchanged for umpteen generations back. This test is used to determine a child's direct maternal line. This test can be taken either male or female. The third one is the autosomal DNA. I've been working with the autosomal DNA on Ancestry and MyHeritage for the last 5 years. Autosomal DNA is the most common and is usually called the cousin DNA because it provides a wide range of relatives. However, it's only effective back 5 or 6 generations. Ancestry only offers the autosomal DNA test, which produces the most comprehensive snapshot of one's ethnicity and living relatives. However, if you use Ancestry to test your DNA, you can then upload that Ancestry DNA test to other websites to get a wider pool of matches, effectively fish in more ponds. MyHeritage has the theory of relativity, which shows how a DNA match is related to you by utilizing their tree information. Ancestry also provides the through lines relationship between individuals by utilizing the massive numbers of trees on Ancestry and the information provided in those trees. See, I'd like to present. David, can I present?
Yep, sure can.
Okay. for here is,
Want to share your screen?
yeah, I'm sure I'm trying to find the right screen to share. That's not it. I've got too many screens up here.
While she's gathering that, you can see that you can use this DNA to gather a lot these lost branches and twigs of the.
That's what I'm
the
using
family.
it for, is to gather all these people to, there it is. Share. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, these are the through lines for William Taylor, and it lists them by child. So we've got all 14 of the children of William Taylor, except for Amanda, who died early and didn't have any descendants. But you can see how many people are listed in here. Alan has 266 DNA matches. Joseph has 295 DNA matches. If we go over to the through lines for Joseph Taylor, we have the Francis Terry. I mean, it lists every one of the matches involved in the lines in the children. So we can trace those down through Ancestry using all of the information that Ancestry provides.
It's a great source for us to do that, right?
Yes. The Ancestry through lines are used by the trees. Everybody has a tree on Ancestry. If you link your DNA to the tree, then they will show up as in the through lines as a relative of yourself.
Well, thank you very much for popping in and sharing that with us. So the challenges that we have is to have these healthy branches and trees, and I want to encourage all of you to look into the branches around your cousins and see if they are with us or if we need to add that branch to us. The other thing that we wanted to talk about was the healthy relationships that are created through these collaborations, and that's that communication thing. We estimate that we have about 50% of the living descendants documented. And we would like to have you documented before your children have to go in and find the information and facts that made you you. You know, there's history here about doing this. Abraham talked about making a book of remembrance so his family would remember. Joseph told a couple of dreams to his family that changed the course of history. Paul talked about his story, and Nephi talked about the spiritual challenge within his life, and he wanted his children to know about his love for Jesus Christ. We need to be concerned about our family for our future family. It's been noted that without this happening, within 3 generations, you become less than a stone. And there's more importance to you and your children than being less than a stone. Okay.
Wow.
Ron, over to you. Talk about a little bit about what we're doing with the ancestry stuff.
Okay. This is interesting.
Step back, David, one slide.
I was looking at the new website, and it actually has this story that I was going to tell you about some of the Y-DNA that we've done. Y-DNA, as Nancy mentioned, is only passed from father to son, does not pass to females. So if you're a male and your surname is Taylor all the way back, then we can track that. To give you a simple example, if I take a Y-DNA test and my brother takes a Y-DNA test, if those 2 tests match, then we know what the DNA is for our father, because it means we have the same father if the 2 tests match. Now, if I take the same test and my first cousin takes the test and those match, then we know what our grandfather's DNA looks like. The same principle goes all the way back. So we have tested all of the descendants, all of the male descendants of Joseph Taylor and Sarah Best. And those patterns all match. So we know what the DNA is for Joseph Sr. I hope you understand what I'm telling you. So it is not necessary for every single person from our family to get a DNA test, because we already know what the pattern is for Joseph Taylor Sr., Joseph Jr., William Taylor, etc., all the way down. You can have it tested if you'd like. Somebody asked on the chat how much the test costs, and I think that Nancy said that the autosomal test is about $59. The Y-DNA test is about $160 per person. So we have tested over 250 people. You can imagine the cost that we've invested. We know that the pattern is consistent all the way back to Joseph Sr. We're hoping eventually to see that same DNA pattern show up in Europe somewhere, in England or Germany or whatever, so that we can maybe find the origins for our Taylor family, or for our Taylor family DNA. The DNA is much more accurate than any paper record or photograph. It's extremely accurate. You see it on television shows all the time where they're trying to solve crimes. Anyway, what we're trying to do is use the DNA to find our ancestry. Let me tell you about a guy that we've discovered in Florida. His name was James Billingsley Hodges. He passed away just recently. He sent in his DNA to a competing company, and the president of that company called me and said, "We've got this guy in Florida, his name's Hodges, and his DNA matches your Taylor family exactly." He says, "We don't know exactly why, but would you like to be put in contact with him and communicate with him?" And we definitely want to do that. And so we contacted James Billingsley Hodges, and he had traced his paper genealogy back to early Norfolk, Virginia, to Roger Hodges and Mary Manning. The neighbor of Roger Hodges was Mary Manning's sister, Margaret Manning, who was married to Richard Taylor. This is in early 1600s in Norfolk, Virginia. Some of the first people that came from Europe to the United States area, to the East Coast. So anyway, with that information, we started to search for paper of any kind of documents that would help us to understand what happened. We found the will of Richard Taylor, and we found the will of his wife, Margaret Manning. Both of them are really interesting to read. But in Richard Taylor's will, he talks about his offspring and giving away various pieces of property to some of them. But then in the middle of his will, he mentions a godson, Richard Hodges. And we don't know why. We still don't, that's all we have. It's just a clue. But based on James Billingsley Hodges tracing his pedigree back to early Norfolk, and our people doing their work in various areas, tracing the pedigree back to North Carolina, and they dropped into North Carolina from Virginia. We now know from lots of other clues and circumstantial evidence that Eileen Phelps could probably comment on, that they came out of the Norfolk area. And anyway, that's what Y-DNA is valuable for. We found also, if we could get Jim Long on here, and I know the Saunders mentioned earlier the connection with the Mary Strawbridge family. Mary Strawbridge came out of North Carolina sometime after the Taylors had already left and were in Warren County and Stewart County Tennessee, and they were headed west, probably to meet up with other family members. So Mary Strawbridge brought with her Henry Austin Taylor and Desmond Taylor, and a daughter also. The daughter didn't help us with the Y-DNA, but the other two men that she brought with her, supposedly her sons, but based on the dates and stuff, it looks like she may have been their stepmother and not their biological mother. But both of those sons had sons and so forth. And we traced down to living descendants, male descendants of those two lines, and their DNA, Y-DNA pattern matches our Taylor DNA pattern. So we now know for certain that they are part of our clan. We don't know how, we don't have the paper evidence, but we know scientifically that they are our cousins. And so they're in our database also, and we're tracking that family.
Isn't this wonderful?
What was that?
I say, isn't this wonderful? It's so
Oh, yeah.
wow.
One other family that we haven't done a lot of work on yet is a Taylor family that is in Missouri. And their DNA pattern seems to match ours also. And there's a fourth family out of West Virginia that matches our pattern very closely. So based on the scientists, they claim that we probably have a common ancestor in the 1400s, that family, but we don't have documentation for any of that. All we have is DNA.
Well, this has been very interesting. Thank you, Ron. So where do we go from here, David? I think I need to talk to Mike, right?
I think this is when we're gonna bring in, Mike.
Let's spend some time, because we can kind of conclude here, Mike, talking about the resources that are available. And we're going to visit also with our friends in Tennessee and Kentucky for a second. But Mike,
we're gonna watch the clock here a little bit, Gordon. I think it's been great that we've been able to get together today. We all love to get together as a family. Sometimes we do that a little more frequently with those that are probably nearby us, perhaps, and a little less frequently those that the distance precludes that. But it's always good when we can get together, particularly in person. You guys have talked a lot about slices today. And I think, like Roger, I'm kind of looking forward to a slice of apple pie or something to sit here at a picnic table, but we don't get to enjoy that. It's just good that we get together. I think this last year is really, it's taught us a lot about social connections and about getting together in ways that perhaps we really had never thought of prior to this pandemic situation. But today's reunion is a great example where we've been able to gather 60 plus, I think, on our count today, people who've been with us on this call. And while conditions may not be right for a while to have an in-person reunion, I think this is really part of our future. I think we're going to see a lot more virtual opportunities for us. And I guess I would encourage our association and our members, those that are on the call that are just part of the family, to maybe consider how could a virtual reunion be part of your future with your own families. I think that's pretty important now. I mean, we've probably all been on the phone or maybe even had a FaceTime chat with our immediate family over this last year. But with Zoom and with Google Meet and WhatsApp and FaceTime, I think we can really take a virtual family reunion to our grandparents, our cousins, our aunts and uncles in a much different way than we've had in the past. And, we have the ability to have breakout sessions. So, if grandparents can gather their children and grandchildren together, the youngest grandchildren could have a breakout where they're doing an activity or drawing or a skit or something to that effect. I think oftentimes the married siblings may have a breakout session of their own where they're just talking about heartaches or challenges and loving and supporting each other. I think there's pretty remarkable things. And even us as an association, when we have an opportunity to get back together in person, in a park, in one of our historical sites that's connected to the Taylor family, we're going to do that. I think we all want to do that. but maybe these virtual reunions fill in the gaps in between. And maybe these are opportunities to expand a meeting that may in the past have just been part of the board, but we have other members there that are researching and doing their work. So I think we've got, I think this year has really brought about some unique opportunities for us as we move forward as a family and as an association. I don't know, Gordon, what your thoughts might be on that.
Well, I love what you've been saying. We've got a family reunion planned in 2020. We've always used family history concept as a part of our family reunions, skits, stories, and puzzles. But you know, we're doing Zoom meetings monthly with our kids, planning for 2020. So I think we as an organization can help in terms of people, both as individual families like mine or for large groups, that we can provide resources and help them together to see those virtual benefits.
So Gordon, I think what we'll do, we'll send a survey out to those who participated with us today and others, I guess, as well. But we'd like to get some feedback eventually about how today went, what we've been able to cover, how we covered it. This is obviously our first foray into this. And so we hope that it's been interesting to everybody who's participated, but we would like some feedback, and we've watched the chat comments, but we'll give everybody an opportunity to really share some other thoughts as we move ahead.
Sure.
So thanks.
Well, should we take a minute and talk about a couple of our people in the field?
Absolutely.
First of all, yes, we take time to talk with first of all, descendants of Amy and Delilah. They're in, remember that they settled in Wallace County, Tennessee, and I'd like to introduce Nelda and Lawrence there in Tennessee. Welcome, guys. They've been working in gathering genealogies, cemeteries, and other activities for years. I wanted to show everybody a couple books, and I have you tell me about them, okay? You want to pipe in there and tell me what you're seeing there, guys?
Go ahead, Lawrence. Okay, you're saying Stewart County history.
Yeah, I understand that you guys helped put these books together.
Well, yeah, and two especially, but 1978 was volume 1, and a bunch of retired school teachers
that's
done all of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then
in volume 2.
Yeah.
When I grew up, people were real nice to me in my community, and I wrote about 30 some odd, maybe 35, 36 stories, and put in there where I researched my neighbors, the people that was good to me.
Well, and I should
some of their kids.
I should tell you that we have taken these books and used them to verify information in the database, and even added additional families from your research. So thank you very much for doing that. I want to ask you, what else have you been doing recently now? I mean, this was some years ago. What have you been doing recently? Nelda, have you?
We've been researching some land grants, particularly along the Saline Creek, Hay Sport Creek, Dyers Creek, Mossy Run. And so we're trying to go back to the original land grants and then map those out, bring forward. And Lawrence and I and Jim Long. And really even get on our pontoon boat and run down the rivers and kind of look at all the landings and stuff like that. So that's what we've been doing for the last year.
I understand that that you folks regularly contribute to the newspaper there locally, providing.
Jim Long and I do. We work in the archives, and we run across a lot of different things. I mean, we can write volumes of books, just things that we find in the archives. And so then we contribute to an article to our weekly paper one time a month. So we take turns doing an article, which we did do one on Mary Strawbridge. Sometime I'll get that to you.
All right. Well, hey, thank you.
And I am interested in knowing what the gentleman said a while ago. That's possibly was a stepdaughter for Mary Strawbridge, because we knew those dates. She couldn't have had stepson. We knew those dates just never lined up. It always bothered my daddy. He would go over and look at the tomb rock, and he would see, on the tomb rock the dates. But then he also had my mother's. He talked to her grandma and had all this laid out. And so my grandmother and daddy, and they never could figure it out. We couldn't figure it out. So that shed a little light. And because I wasn't sure that I was even a Taylor. And then after he said it does run down, don't know how, but it does run down. I hit Lawrence on the leg, and I thought, okay, I'm a Taylor after all.
Well, thank you very much. You mentioned Jim Long. We need to tell those people on the broadcast that Jim Long works with you in the archives, and Jim has provided us some significant additional information recently. But Jim told us that anybody who were a part of Delilah's and Amy's line, that if they wanted to do research in your county, to come and contact you. So we'll provide Jim's contact information, and it's okay if we provide him your telephone number too. All right, great. Thank you very much.
I do want to mention one other thing. The death records is really valuable, where people die, and then this Henry Austin Taylor, that family right there of John Taylor and Mary Strawbridge, their daughter, Kathy, I've got her death records, and she says that her father was Josiah Wallace and Polly Strawbridge was her mother.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We'll have to follow up on that. Well, in the interest of time, thank you guys. I need to introduce everybody to Faye Alford over in Warren County. Everybody, Faye has been for years involved in research of cemeteries. How many years, Faye? You need to unmute your phone. How many years? Yeah, how many years?
Since about 1970.
And how did you get started?
As a research for family, looking for great-grandparents and not being successful. So I just kept digging, and I'm still digging.
And you've researched how many cemeteries in Warren County?
I have documented and researched about 15, and I have been involved in another 10.
My word. And how do you document your work?
Generally what I do is when, I have a reason to go in there, or I think I do, or I'm just curious at who's buried there. And then sometimes you find family members buried in some of these. Well, there might not be 3 stones in it. Or I might know somebody that's kin to somebody that's buried in there. And but generally what I do is, I talk to the landowner. If I want to go into that cemetery, I don't just traipse across their field to get into it. I always take my cell phone. I always tell somebody where I'm going or what I'm doing. Take somebody with me if I can. A good camera. Take lots of pictures. I even draw sketches. And I write down exactly what I see on the stone. Sometimes you can't read the stones, and I do rubbings or I clean that stone where I can. And then come back to my computer and sit down and see if I can find these people on Find a Grave or wherever I can find them at, and get precise information if it matches what's on that stone. And
do you get obituaries too? How do you?
I have lots of obituaries.
Have you been collecting those for a long time too?
Pretty good while. I'd say probably about 10 years. And I brought one of my books.
Oh.
You can see there's one of the books, and
Oh.
it's just chucking full. There's probably 500 in this book
Of obituaries.
of obituaries.
And there, Warren County is kind of famous for the small cemeteries, isn't it? I saw a map on your back at your home that looked like hundreds of cemeteries. Small.
I think there's about 400 on that list, and some of them don't have but 2 or 3 graves. Some of them don't have but 1 grave in it.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And you said that you were willing to share what you have with the people that are on the call, right?
Anybody that's interested.
Well, we'll provide a little handout about the cemeteries that you've researched and your contact information if members on the call would like to follow up with that. Thank you so much, guys, for being with us and sharing today. Okay. Okay, David.
Roger, you want to bring us home?
I think you're going to take it from here, but I want to make a comment. I see Mark Taylor here from England. We're talking about people from the East Coast to the West Coast, from Canada to Mexico. Mark, good to have you here from England. Hope you're doing well over there. So as we end this, David, I think you're going to take it away from here, but we're so much to be thankful for what's been taking place and what can take place. We need your help. And please reach out, let us help you, and you help us. David?
Okay, thank you, Roger. And yeah, I appreciate it. This has been great. As been said, it's our first time doing this. We'd like to hear your feedback. I love the challenge that we have that we're leaving you with today to help us and the organization and your own families to document your lives and gather and watch some other generations. So we're going to open it up now in the time that remains to just open chat. But first, had we been all together, we would probably gather for a family photo. So the best we can do today is have anyone who's with you in the room, if you'll turn on your video cameras and gather around, and we will do a screenshot. It's going to take several because we can't get them all on the screen here. And let's see if I can even do this.
So you're going to drop that off the screen, David?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yep. And
oh my word.
Let's see. Let me stop spotlighting you too, Gordon. I mean, you look great, but
I know. I see a whole lot of wonderful family.
This is great. All right.
Oh,
I'm going to do this a couple at a time.
We had a family photo from 1909, and now we'll have a family photo from 2021.
Mike, you need to have some of the people turn on their camera.
This is true.
If you have the ability and you want to just jump on for that last photo, please do. We recognize maybe not everybody, like I say, you might not be where you can. And if you can't, I guess that's the case. But if you're still with us and can just click on the screen and just touch the camera, we'd love to see you.
Wow. Wonderful.
Hang on, I got one. Sorry, I wasn't quite as ready as I wanted to be. Okay, there's one picture. Now we're going to move to the other one.
Wow.
Oh, that's not working the way I wanted it to.
I want to know if anybody's in their pajamas, in their PJs.
Well, they can show us later, maybe.
What you see is what you got.
Yeah.
Well, it is 10 o'clock at night here in Bristol.
Mark.
And you're allowed.
There's William Taylor himself.
Hey.
Minus the beard.
I think we got us all, everybody.
I think we did.
So if there's any things that you would like to comment on, you can use the reaction button at the bottom of your screen to raise your hand, and we'll visit with you. You can visit
Let me
with
just
others that
mention,
are on this call.
let me just mention, it was it Nathan and Aaron? I just saw, now it's off my screen, but they had their family. I saw little kids, and so it was nice to see that family on here as well.
Yeah,
Nathan and Aaron.
I believe Nathan was at Kentucky last time I was there to visit with the family.
Well, that's terrific.
I think I'm the only one. Well, I was only looking for myself, but I see
There's
another
Nathan.
David Taylor here. Anybody else with the same names that are on today?
There's a Dave Taylor.
Yes.
Yeah,
From Wisconsin.
Wisconsin,
Dave's
I
on
think.
here.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's still here. I saw him earlier.
Yeah, there's Dave. Yes. Yes, there's Dave.
Oh, a few Susans, Susan says.
There are two Linda Taylors,
Yeah.
different married names, but they're two of us.
Yeah.
So does anybody beat Mark for the farthest away from, well, wherever we're broadcasting from, I guess?
You're broadcasting from
yeah, Springville, Utah. Gordon, you're in Colorado, right?
right. I think I saw somebody from Josie from Canada, was from somebody from Canada. Yeah. Joy
Alberta,
from Canada. Yeah, Joy from Canada.
There you are, Joy.
Yeah, Jane's from Illinois. Some of the others here. Kathleen, you're from Washington, right?
Yes, I live 20 miles south of Seattle, Washington. And it's a cloudy day here. We had rain yesterday.
So Kathleen, can I ask what's your 20 miles? Is that Auburn or Federal Way, or?
I live in Kent.
Oh, you live in Kent. Okay, my parents lived in Auburn for 30 some odd years. Yeah.
I think Carlene looks like she's in Hawaii. Am I right?
Now, we were going to take a poll. We were going to do a poll and see where you guys would like to meet for the next in-person reunion. That might be the place. I don't know that there's a Taylor connection to Hawaii or the Hawaiian Islands, but it might be a place to meet, huh?
I think Carlene has mastered the backgrounds of
Yes.
Yeah. I see
And then-
Anita, I see that Anita is here from Montana.
And I did see a question about, is anybody descended from Louisa Taylor Stout? Now, I don't know on the call. I was telling some of these folks earlier, my son married a Melanie Cox here. I live in St. George, Utah. And when I put Melanie's genealogy information into my database, I thought a name came up that I thought looked a little familiar. So my son and his wife, their fifth cousin once removed, but she's through Louisa Taylor Stout. So my daughter-in-law is. They actually asked me to quit telling that story. They just assume not have everybody know their cousins. But I shared it with all of you today.
Could anyone who is related to John Criddle Jr. and Sarah Bennett raise their hand? John Criddle Jr. and Sarah Bennett. That's my line.
I haven't seen any hands.
I've got friends in Utah that come down through the Criddle group, but
Right.
none of them are on this call.
Okay.
There's Criddles in Idaho Falls.
Oh, yes. Yeah. A lot of my Criddles were born in Idaho.
Cool.
Anyone have Trips in their line? Recognize the Tripp family in your line?
With two P's, I'm guessing. Trip with two P's.
Yes, TRIPP.
Yep. Yeah.
Where is the Bennett from? Is she from Idaho?
So James Bennett and George Bennett, they came out of Illinois and went to Utah. So I actually had more than 10 ancestors come out of Illinois and go to Utah.
I have Bennett's out of Idaho.
Mike, this is Ron Taylor. If once we have a full list of everybody that participated today, I can make a pedigree that shows which lineages everybody comes from. And I can send a copy of that to everybody.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Great.
Nice.
That would be wonderful, Ron. Thank you. One of
We've
the
tried to
benefits of
capture
being here
everybody.
today, huh?
Yeah.
Can I make a comment? I
I'd
don't
love
know
to
if
hear
you
from
should
you.
see who I am. Okay, I'm from Kentucky. I haven't lived here for that long, but it was just by chance that I went by Taylor Cemetery a few months ago. I don't know whether you can see this. Can you see? It says Taylor Cemetery on this little
Oh,
thing
yeah.
right there.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I went in there and it was kind of overrun, so we cleaned it up a little bit, and I saw a lot of the names that you talked about today, and you've answered a lot of questions about why there were so many cherries in the graveyard, the ages of the people that have died, and I was just very touched when I went there. This is my grandpa who lives in who lived in Mapleton. He just barely passed away. And this is 5 generations of Taylors. This is Grandpa Taylor and Elroy Taylor. And this is me, his daughter, Wendy. And then my son, Taylor. Now we all have Taylor in our names because it's Grandpa Taylor. And then Elroy Taylor. And then my middle name is Taylor. And then my son's middle name is Taylor. And his daughter's middle name is Taylor. So there's 5 generations of Taylors right there. And they're from Mapleton. But I just happened to move back to Kentucky and go by that graveyard. And I just want to thank you, because that's where I found this, that's where I found the information for this, but it has helped me to make some connections, and I just really appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Well, you'll have to meet Alan and Faye, since they are their cousins.
I have a picture to share. This is Elizabeth Ann Taylor. She is the daughter of William Taylor and Elizabeth Patrick. And these are her children.
Oh,
and her first husband was Samuel Driggs. So the top children on the picture are Driggs' children. And then she married John Criddle Sr. And the bottom pictures are the Criddle children.
Yep. You need to contribute that to our website, and we'll be happy to include that as well, right, David?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're archiving things like that for others to use. Yes. Does anybody else want to share some things with us? We're so thrilled to have you all here. It's been so fun.
Gordon, I had something I was thinking I would raise. Did anyone sign on for Roots Tech this last week? And use the Roots Tech Relatives tool to try to find people? I found a second cousin that I'd been looking for decades.
Wonderful. I saved 250 people that were related to me out to my message traffic and sent some of the messages. Some of them may be here because as a result of my message to them. But I sent messages out to 250 people that were related to me that I saw.
Is that still up?
No, I think it went down. They will probably do it again next year.
Oh, no, it is still available to, as long as you registered, then you can still check. And I had almost 60,000 cousins on
Yeah.
Roots Tech.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had 90,000.
The relatives at Rich Tech
Wow.
picture, the relatives at Rich Tech picture,
50,000.
yeah, will be available till the end of March.
The relatives around me will be available. That David is our authority. He works for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So he's our authority on that subject. So you could go in there if you haven't, go in and look at, sign in, I guess, and look at the relatives around me.
Yeah, you had to have done it during the event. So only if you had connected during the event, and then it'd be available through the end of March. And then all of the sessions will be available through the year.
Faith, you said want to ask something?
Yes, I'm not a tailor. I'm sorry, folks, but my husband is. and I've got a picture of Paradigm. If anybody wants to see her, she's a descendant of Joseph Best. That is his great grandmother, my husband's great grandmother. But I still love all y'all.
I love you all too.
I think that's all y'all.
All y'all.
I'm not a tailor either. My husband is the tailor, but you can see how they got me roped into this.
All of you that are saying that you're not tailors, we're not finished with the research yet. I bet we'll find you.
I had a fun, quick story I could share. A few years ago, I was singing in the Tabernacle Choir, and in the morning, they have music in the spoken word, and they introduce people that have come in groups. And one day, there was somebody from a Taylor family reunion, and they were from North Carolina, and they had them all stand up. So as soon as we were done singing, I ran down around the back of the conference center and found them, and we were distant cousins. It was an amazing, got a picture of my cousins from North Carolina, but that was an amazing day. I wonder if any of you are on this call.
Wow.
I don't know. Jane, were you there at the North Carolina? I don't know if you would come in from North Carolina for that. You wouldn't have. Probably. Right.
This has been amazing.
Yeah.
I'm a hugger, and I miss not being able to hug all of you.
Hug.
There you go, a virtual hug. Thank you very much, Kathleen. But there's been a lot of love here. Thank you.
We like David said, we appreciate your comments. We were thinking maybe you would like to do individual lines if you wanted to work on individual virtual lines. So we focus on your line or something.
Thank you, Susan.
Help. Those kinds of things. So special. Well, thank you. I guess we're close, huh?
We're past our time, but none of us want to go home.
Nope.
Because we're already home.
Well, put the burgers on the grill now and get the potato salad out and
there you go.
enjoy the afternoon.
Everybody be sure to send David information that you want to see on the website.
Do we have
hard.
Do we have any family recipes from the Taylors?
Yeah, I want to know.
Just curious.
I already put in my request with Jane that I needed to have that fudge recipe. Famous.
I'd opt for that.
Trust me, you want that fudge recipe. That we
do that.
Never had.
Hey, I'm heading over to the horseshoe pit. Anybody want to play horseshoes?
There we go.
All right. Well,
I want to say we're having a beautiful sunny day here in Elgin, but the ground is still all covered with snow.
Wow. From the big snow. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's melting. It's warming up now. In fact, my daffodil